What is up, YouTube? Fahros here with my first episode of Battlerite Basics. This will be a series where I pick a character in the game, I go over all their abilities on a basic level, and then afterwards show how those abilities are applied in a real fight. So I've been spending a ton of time on this game lately, and my goal here is just to help new players quickly understand the character's fundamentals, as well as provide some useful tips and tricks to you guys along the way. Now I'm by no means a master, but I'm going to be starting with a character I know pretty well, and that's Pearl, who you see on screen right now. Now, she's listed as a support character in the game, but don't be fooled by that title. This is a little ass kicker. Look at that glare! This character means business. Anyway, she's a character that I've recently been climbing MMR with, so some people might not know. When I started playing Battlerite, I was new. I messed around in matches. I got placed in grade 7. I got placed way down there. Now I've grinded all the way to grade 11 and almost to grade 12, and Pearl was a huge asset in that climb. So, in my opinion, she's a great character, and I wanted to share with you all. Now, I'll be doing this with multiple characters, if not all of them. But we're going to start with Pearl. So without further ado, let's dive into her skill set and see what she's all about. So here we are in training mode, and I'm going to be going through these abilities one by one to show you guys how they look on screen, how they function, and so you guys, hopefully, by the end of this quick rundown, when you watch Battlerite or when you first get the game, I'm hoping you have more of an understanding of how these things work and what you're seeing on screen. My goal is for you to be able to be excited about and, follow along with the gameplay that's later in this video. So let's get right into it. First on the list is Pearl's left mouse button, her left click. That's called Volatile Water. This is a pretty standard ranged projectile attack. By default, it deals 14 damage. It has a moderate travel time, it has a moderate distance. Like I said, pretty typical ranged attack here. Short cast time. 14 damage is really good for a support for a single attack. It's really, really good. So don't undervalue your left click. As a tip for a new Pearl player, do not undervalue your left click. You can add up the damage so fast if you can be accurate with these things. And just to give you some perspective, this is a game where the average character has 200 HP. So 14 is not peanuts. Furthermore, Pearl can empower her left click to where it will do 22 damage and silence the enemy if your staff is fully charged. Now there's like 3 ways to get your staff fully charged, and we're going to talk about most of them as we continue through the abilities. So let's move right along. But just remember that her left click is pretty sick. I rate it very high. Pearl's second ability on the list is her Healing Wave. This is her right mouse button or her right click. Healing Wave is just how she heals primarily. If I'm not mistaken, is actually the only way she heals her allies. This is a projectile as well, so this is a bit of a skill shot, just like her left click, and really just like everything else in Battlerite. You're gonna have to have some skill to play this game, even if you're just healing. Her right click lobs 3 projectiles that heal for 7 apiece. So a total of 21 if you manage to connect all 3 projectiles to yourself or your ally. It's very easy to connect all 3 on yourself, by the way, if you just use the self-casting key. But if you're healing an ally, you need to remember that if your ally's moving, you need to sort of lead those shots. And you also need to remember always that these are projectiles. It's not like some of the other healers. Cough, serious. You cannot heal through walls. Your healing projectile would just run right into the wall and do nothing. So you need to make sure you're aiming these and you have line of sight of your ally. But it's a pretty big burst of healing if you can land all 3. Next up is Dive. Pearl's spacebar. Pearl's Dive is an amazing ability. I think it's one of the best spacebars in the game. It's a short teleport or blink. I refer to it as a lot because it reminds me of a mage's blink from World of Warcraft. It's a short range teleport. So the uses of this are almost endless. You can blink out of danger. You can blink to dodge a projectile. You can blink to dodge an effing ultimate if it gets placed under you. Your dive is super, super strong. It says dive into a pool of water and travel to target locations. Causes a riptide that deals 12 damage to nearby enemies when you dive. So if 2 melee are on you, they've used their gap closer to get on top of you, and you dive away, not only do you get away, but you do some damage. And if that wasn't good enough, if you Battlerite dive with her round 1 Battlerite called Power of the Deep, your dive charges your weapon. This gives you the empowered left click that does bonus damage and silences your enemy. So you can use dive very aggressively as well, not only to chase foes down, but while you're chasing them, you charge your weapon if you have that Battlerite, which, by the way, I get 95% of the time. You charge your weapon, and then you get a big nuke on them if you manage to connect your next left click. I think everyone's gonna know that this is a very strong ability right off the bat, but nonetheless, there's your explanation of it. Speaking of strong abilities, next up on the list is Tidal Wave, what is, I think, my favorite ability of Pearl's kit. This is a counter. You fighting game fans are gonna love this one. The tooltip reads, counters the next melee or projectile attack, causing a tidal wave that deals 16 damage and knocks nearby enemies back. That wave also heals you for 16 HP, and if it wasn't enough already, to make it even better, it recharges your staff. That's right, it gives you that empowered left click that we talked about, that if you Battlerite your spacebar, you get for the bonus damage and the silence, you also get it guaranteed baseline off your counter. And it's abilities like this that really make Battlerite feel like a fighting game to me and really make it engaging. I try to use the counter like a parry. If I notice a Jumong is going for his setup with his trap, I'll blow the counter. If I don't have a bubble to get myself out of it, because I know he's going to try to in-cap me afterwards, so I use that to sort of parry his in-cap setup. Or if I see a projectile on the way coming towards me, or if I can delay it, then stand in front of it and counter it, you know, I could set that up, counter my opponent's offense, even if they ultimate, and get myself that knockback, that heal, and that empowered left click. This is a great ability, but be careful with it. Make sure you land it at an opportune time, so you can swing the tide of battle in your favor. Moving on down the line, we come to Pearl's E key, which is her bubble barrier skill. This is a very unique ability in Battlerite. This spawns a bubble barrier at target location that slows enemy projectiles and enemies that enter the space. So this is great for space control. You can use it to wall off ranged DPS, slow their projectiles, make it to where you and your teammates either have time to heal up, time to react to the projectiles that are coming through, or just time to get the hell out of the way. I love using this bubble barrier for space control. I love using it to reduce damage that ranged heroes are doing, and you can even put it between two melee. Let's say melees are chasing you around a corner, you can put it on the edge of the corner, and remember that enemies that pass through the bubble field are slowed, so you can use it as even a getaway mechanic. Really, really great ability. Has its niche uses, but if you master bubble barrier, you are going to make it very difficult for them to accomplish what they are trying to accomplish in the middle of the match. It is worth mentioning that bubble barrier has an EX version of itself that requires one energy bar, does exactly the same thing, but also explodes after a short duration, dealing damage to everything inside the bubble. This is a very niche ability, but has some extremely powerful uses, such as scoring quick center orb kills for your team, as you just saw on screen. So don't forget about EX bubble barrier, aka unstable bubble. And that's not the only bubble spell that you don't want to forget about. Don't forget about Pearl's R ability called Bubble Shield. This may seem low impact at first, but hear me out. It shields a target ally. Key point, removing all negative effects. It is a dispel. Also shields for up to absorb for up to 30 damage. So the use of this ability is twofold. You can use it if your teammate is under high pressure and he's about to die. You quickly bubble shield him. It gives you time for you to heal him up or him to heal himself up and just survive for a few more seconds, absorbing 30 damage. The one thing to keep in mind here is that the duration of the shield is only 2.5 seconds. So if you shield your ally or yourself, make sure they are actively taking damage to get value from the absorb, or that you are actively dispelling a fear, petrify, stun, root, or any other CC. Bubble Shield can be an incredibly clutch and powerful skill if used correctly. Last but certainly not least is Jaws, Pearl's ultimate ability. You summon Jaws from the depths to devour enemies, dealing 20 area damage. Devoured enemies are removed from the battle until Jaws spews them out, dealing another 20 damage to all enemies near the landing site. You can recast this ability, mind you, to redirect the landing site. The uses of Jaws are plentiful, and while Pearl's EXs are pretty darn good, I find myself using Jaws quite a bit for the wombo combo potential and for sudden death fog kills. Just tip from me to you, stay mindful of the enemy's movement cooldowns so you know they can't escape when you go to put down the AoE for Jaws to come up and eat them. It has a 1-second impact delay, so you'll want to make sure that they can't escape your fishy. And my friends, that is it. We have went through the basics together. I hope by this point you have a better understanding of Pearl's basic mechanics and concepts. So without any further delay, I'd like to jump right into a match now, a match that I played and commentated earlier this week to show you guys how these abilities are applied in a real match. Let's effing go. It's time. Alright guys, so here is the match. It is me paired with a Rook player who has a very high melee DPS, and we are going against another Pearl paired with a Rakan who is a very self-sustaining melee caster hybrid. So I chose the Battlerite. Like I said, that when I dive, it empowers my weapon. So you're going to see me dive right off the bat here. And now my staff's glowing pink. That shows that my next auto is going to silence and do bonus damage. Boom, and I land one right there on that Pearl. Now this round goes quick. I wall off the Pearl there with a bubble to try to keep her from preventing, or to try to keep her from damaging my Rook. I get a nice little trade with her there where I get a head-on damage. I countered one of her spells, and it's hard to keep up with all the action, but you'll see me use my bubble field again there to wall her off from my Rook, and then I'll try to get in front of her and counter like I did there, get my empowered staff, get my empowered damage out. The whole time I'm trying to keep myself and my Rook ahead on healing, constantly blinking around, getting empowered staff strikes, silencing the enemy DPS. I missed the counter right there, she didn't go for it. But this is Pearl 101, and I know it's happening very fast. I'll be slowing down some of the later round. But this round is just me and the Rook constantly pressuring, constantly blinking forward. And we got a kill right there because we played so aggro. And the enemy Pearl thought she had time to go for that center orb to try to kill that and give her team some energy and HP, but she didn't get it. We got a nice in-cap ult combo right there. She gets gobbled up by the fish, silenced, attacked right out of it, and she is down, and that's round one. Quick as lightning. I think that round lasted maybe a minute, and I know it was very hard to see everything that was happening there because Pearl she's a support. She can heal, but she can go in at the same time, so I'm going to be slowing down some of this round. This round, pay attention to how I started again. I dive, I get the empowered staff. Now I run in, and there's a very important trade that happens with this Pearl that I think started off the round great. And this is why I love Battlerite, and it reminds me so much of a fighting game. We each use our bubbles right here. She counters my strike, so I blink. I get an empowered strike. I see her coming after me. She blinks after me right about here. She tosses an attack at me. I dodge. She tosses another one. I see it coming. Boom! Counter. Parried it. I throw an attack back at her, silence her, and that was such an awesome trade to me, and that's why I wanted to slow it down. Because when you break it down to those little exchanges, this is really a fighting game. It's really mind games. Where do you think your opponent's gonna shoot? Do you think they're gonna shoot at you? Okay, you got the reactions to see it, then counter it. And then, try to incorporate your strategy and your other tools to get ahead on life and get ahead on those trades. Here, my Rook got gobbled up and thrown over the wall. I didn't even know he could get thrown that far by the Pearl ult, so I got thrown off by that. I tried to step in and do some fighting for him here, and I make a nice play against this Rakan. The Rakan uses his ult, and right here, for you Pearl players out there, just use your bubble field. Because Rakan, when he's in his ult, you see he's helpless. He only has 2 abilities. He's got his left click, which he's out of range, and that hand that grabs you. But that hand counts as a projectile, and that's why I wanted to slow-mo that. Because the projectile won't be able to go through your field quick enough. So really, if you just bubble him off from you when he ults, his ult is pretty much wasted if he ults into a Pearl with a bubble field. I get gobbled up here. The enemy Pearl did a nice job of waiting until me and my Rook used our movement abilities, and then she would drop an ult on us, after we had already used our spacebar. or after, you know, she would just watch our cooldowns, and she landed a lot of ults because of this set. So they took the second round. And how Battlerite works is, it's first to 3 wins. So right now, if you look at the top of the screen, there's 1 blue bubble, 1 red bubble. Each team's tied up 1 round to 1. And like I said, it's a matter of who gets 3 first. So the Battlerites I've chosen, the first 2 made it to where my space bar empowered my left click, and the second Battlerite I chose made it to where my empowered left clicks did cleave damage and cleave silence. And then the third one I got made it to where I can pretty much just bubble barrier myself or my teammates more often. So I start this round off the same as usual. I dive to get the empowered left click, and now I'm just trying to be a little safe here. I'm trying to make sure I stay ahead on my Rook's healing. And we get some great damage on the enemy Rakan there. I had a silent strike on him, the Rook knocked him into the wall, and we are noticing that this guy's already at less than half life, so we're just going in right now. I missed a silent strike there, which is kind of big, or an empowered left click rather. So I didn't get the silence on him, but we're still trying to maintain this pressure. Rook, I think, pieced out a little bit, trying to give me a chance to heal him. Ooh, and the Pearl missed her silence on me, but I got it on her. Like, that felt so good for her to miss and me to land that hit there. She's doing some damage to me, but I feel like me and the Rook are still ahead and we still have pressure, so I got a nice parry there, or a nice counter rather, and even though we could back off and go to mid right now, we could have like went and got the HP orbs or the little power-ups in the middle of the arena, we noticed that we were winning this team fight, so I stayed with my Rook. He seemed like he wanted to maintain aggression, and I just stayed with him, and I'm doing my best to heal here, use my bubble barriers again to try to control space. Keep space barring for those silences that you just saw there, and just keep tossing the heals. I sort of waste my counter there, but so did she. I got a little damage afterwards. That usage of the bubble barrier was perfect. I put it in between Pearl and Rook, and he just walked on the other side of it, so Pearl couldn't do anything. And I think she was too far from her teammate to heal. We like separated them with that bubble field, and then me and Rook just turned on the enemy melee and got a kill. And now this is just us rushing down the Pearl for the rest of the round. So nothing special. I go ahead and you saw a bubble shield on Rook. It just puts a little bubble over him to absorb some damage. Oh, I do get gobbled up here. You see she moved the little X to control where I got spit out, but it didn't really matter. She got mauled by the Rook. So these rounds have been lightning quick. I know there's a ton of action going on screen, but I hope from the little breakdown I did at the beginning of the video, tried to explain some of the skills, I tried to explain Pearl's toolkit and how it works. I hope you guys are able to follow along and appreciate the action that's going on screen, because I promise you there is so much thought and strategy that goes into this. Take this round for example. Very fast, don't blink, but there's a lot going on here. So they waste their silence and their shadow bolt right there. Me and Rook, notice this, we go in. Now Rook's doing a ton of damage to their melee. I start taking a ton of damage as well though, so I play defensive. I blink out, I heal myself up, I step up, I bubble shield the Rook. See, he's got an absorb there for if they choose to trade with him. I heal myself up again. Rook gets a stun and armor break, beats her counter and incaps her into the wall. I blink up, we get a silent strike. He throws a boulder, they collide at the same time. She has no opportunity to heal herself there and just drops. It was like that round happened so fast, and that's pretty much the game. I'm just killing the orb right here because I know it's over. I get my Rook some bonus energy, and boom, he finishes the Rakan with an ult practically. He's one shot away from death, and we walk up and just get the W. But like that round, for instance, that was so fast, but I feel like it was also so smart. We went in, we played footsies until they wasted some of their big openers. Then we rushed in off that. I noticed I got bursted. I backed off, then jumped back in as soon as I noticed my Rook had set up some damage, and that was the game. We won off of it. It was crazy. So, for real guys, I hope you guys are liking the Battlerite gameplay commentaries. If you are, please give this video a like. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see more like it. Let me know if you want to see more Pearl. Maybe a full-on tutorial. I've been playing her a lot lately. I feel like I'm getting pretty decent with her. But there's 17 characters in this game to cover, and if you guys would like to see some other characters as well, can totally do that. Please give me your feedback in the comments below, and I'll be very excited to see you guys next time. Until then, take care. Peace out.